Welcome into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. And I know, again, all wins are great, but what did that one mean to you guys, or how did that feel, especially coming out of the last few weeks and last week in particular?
It felt great, especially after coming off a loss last week, the way we lost the game, to come back out there and iron through some things and show some grit and some toughness and some awareness, and come out with a win was big for us.
Now looking back on this last week, what do you see that stands out about the team's approach to practice, the mental response? Like you said, after such a tough loss last week, a lot of teams can choose to kind of fracture or come together. What stands out to you about the way this team handled this last week that let them come out and have this kind of performance?
They're smart enough to know it's the little things that get us beat, and everything we were doing was fine. It's just the mistakes we were making at critical times and cleaning up those things. I thought the leaders did a great job of taking charge in practice and in meetings, making sure everybody dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and we came out and played a complete ball game.
For you guys as coaches, what either adjustments, X's and O's wise, or messages do you feel like really contributed to the way you guys came out against the Titans, or do you feel like you would have played this ball game regardless of what happened last week?
Maybe like to say that, but as coaches, you're always trying to get better from the week before. And from the week before, we had a lot to get better at, especially on the defensive side. So you just try to make sure the players are in position that they need to be to play, and that they understand the technique we're trying to get them to use and the scheme that we're trying to run against the people we're trying to run it against. And thought we really focused on that and cut down on a lot of things that we had mental errors on and corrected those things, and they came out and played.
If I had told you ahead of time you'd hold Derrick Henry to 24 yards rushing and 2.2 yards per carry, I imagine that would have made you pretty happy and made you feel pretty good about your chances.
I probably would have laughed at that had you told me before the game.
So tell me, what led to that, if in your mind, looking back, knowing that how hard that is to do and how unlikely it is to do?
Again, we were winning first down. You know, I think Joe came across the ball the first play of the line of scrimmage and got him 2 or 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Cansey got some, Devin got some. They rallied to the ball. They didn't let him get started. You know, you can play him another week and you're going to see him run for 170 yards. So we were fortunate and a little bit lucky, but the guys played hard. They played hard, and they made a conscious effort to try to contain him.
And then same thing, to have told you DeAndre Hopkins, 3 catches, 27 yards. Which one would you have said was more or less likely between those two things, and then the idea of, again, doing them both the same game?
The less likely would have been Henry. I would have said. I thought we could play man on DeAndre. I thought he could get a great catch on us if he had a chance to get an opportunity for a jump ball, but holding Derrick Henry to 24 yards is literally impossible.
So looking at the DeAndre Hopkins one, especially knowing you had a pretty banged up secondary throughout the week, you're without Carlton Davis, who's your guy that, especially if you're thinking, man, I'm going to throw a guy into press man coverage against one of the top guys in the league, that's been kind of Carlton's MO in his past in the career. So looking at what you did against Hopkins and then knowing that some of your guys were either banged up or not playing, what did that say to you about this secondary, again, especially coming off a performance this last week that they all said was not their best day at the office?
Well, Dean and Zion can play man just as good as Carlton, you know. And again, the pass rush had a lot to do with that as well. They go hand in hand. When we cover and rush, we can do a lot of things together. So, but Dean and Zion did a heck of a job, you know, just going back, looking at the film, covering one-on-one when they had to. They were getting hands on him, which was real big for him. He makes great catches. He's a great receiver. I have a lot of respect for him, but I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, you guys had sacks on their first 3 drives, definitely a recipe for success there. 5 tackles for loss in just the opening quarter, which matches the most by any team in a single quarter this season. Why particularly early on do you think you guys were able to get to Levis so effectively and then get in the backfield so much? Was it something about what you were dialing up? Was it just the way that guys were actually, executing what they were supposed to do?
It's a little bit of both. We got some talented guys up front. We try to make them play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, play the run on the way to the quarterback, and they did a good job doing that.
Do you feel like when they know a team maybe has had some offensive line injuries or some struggles, do you ever feel like that kind of helps maybe a little extra motivation, a little extra pin your ears back?
I think it helps when you can slow the run down. When you can slow the run down and pin your ears back, especially against that team, you might have some success.
And Yaya had another sack, also a tackle for loss. So just tell us what stands out about not only his game against the Titans, but just his progression so far this season, where it seems like he's almost forcing you to put him out there a little bit more.
Well, I'm gladly forcibly putting him out there, but he's very strong. He's very tough. He sets the edge with the best of them. And for a run game like that, He's doing a heck of a job getting the system down. He's coming into his own, and you're starting to see his personality more and more, and he's getting better and better every week and making us put him on the field.
And how about Vita's game? Also, I don't know if you've seen the photo of him where his helmet is like half off and he's still celebrating before he even fixes it. I felt like this really just kind of put Vita in a nutshell on this photo of like he's getting there no matter what's happening and celebrating no matter what else is happening.
That tells you what kind of mode he was in. You know, he was doing anything to win mode. Those guys followed him. They see that. They get energized by it, and they just get going more and more. And once all of them get going at the same time, we can be a tough team.
And Kalijah Kancey, man, I mean, another tackle for loss. He has the second most among rookies and is the first rookie with multiple in consecutive games since the likes of, Micah Parsons, Jalen Phillips in 2021. Pretty good company to be in. Tell us about what you've seen from him, both in the pass and the run game, and the way he's been able to produce in both.
He's continuing to get the system down. He's continuing to add his own flavor to getting the system down, and we're continuing exploring ways to get him free and to get Vita free and moving him around along the line of scrimmage, and he's going to be a heck of a player for us.
What kind of versatility do you feel like you now have with especially your front guys? We've seen some where you're running some guys inside that normally would be outside and vice versa, just to have people that have the kind of athletic ability they have. What does that do for you in terms of what you can dial up, especially when it comes to pressure?
It's good because we got versatile pieces, and to move guys around and see them do a lot of things, it gives the offense problems, so we're going to continue to try and do that.
And Marquise Watts made his NFL debut, and we saw him getting a key tackle early on. He gets the quarterback hit that helps lead to the interception late in the game, that not only to get a debut, but to have some very landmark plays like that. What did that say to you about him and the potential of who he could be for this team?
He did exactly what he was doing in practice against Tristan and Luke. We saw it every week. We're like, this guy, we got to get him to the game. We got to get him to the game. We got to get him to the game. Finally got him to the game. He showed up, and he showed up in a big way. And happy for him, proud to see him. He's earning playing time, and we're going to look forward to seeing him more. And
I have to imagine when you're getting to watch him go against Tristan, you're like, well, if he can do that, he can basically go up against anybody in the league.
That's exactly right. Him and Luke, I mean, Tristan and Luke get more work than anybody during the week because he goes hard every single time.
That's great. All right, we have more coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. I know that interceptions have been something you guys have emphasized, hasn't come as much as you'd wanted so far. This game, you almost had about 1 million. I was wondering, the whole game I kept thinking about you every time one of these almost happened, of what you were thinking and saying on the field. At least you ended up getting one by the end of the game. You get the Antoine one. Were you heartened by the fact that they were so close, or in your mind, close just doesn't really matter?
Close doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was going to be your response.
We had our hands on about 4 or 5 balls that we had in our hands that we should have come down with, and we're going to look into getting some catcher's mitts and see if that works, because the hands and the jugs machine ain't helping.
Yep. So for you, what is it as a coach that you do now to try to get it from the almost to the actually having it? What are some of the strategies you guys have?
I mean, we do every ball drill in America right now. We do every psychology drill in America. You just have to get it at that moment. The ball's not meant for the defense, so you should attack it like it's yours all the time. These guys just have to focus on catching it as opposed to running, and then we'll be okay.
I know Devin got a sack now in back-to-back games. Levante, multiple tackles for loss again, which I feel like we can just record that line and say that every week at this point. And so he has recorded a tackle for loss in each of the past 5 games. No Bucs player has a longer streak than JPP in 2018. So take us through the play of both of your inside linebackers and what you've seen, especially lately.
Levante's been playing lights out, sideline to sideline. He's very locked in. He's very focused during the week. He understands his assignment to a T. Devin, we knew we had to get him downhill to try to get Henry going. He got downhill early. He was going early and often. He saw some openings that he had some free lanes on, and he hit the quarterback more importantly than the sack. He hit the quarterback a few times, which caused some incompletions down the field. That was big for us. Both of them are playing good football.
So now I think we learned Mike just needs touchdowns to be harder to get. Does that sound like a good strategy that I might mention that to Canales of like, hey, we don't want these wide open ones. Just need a little bit of extra effort. How impressive was the one he did score, especially knowing he was coming off of a drop that had to be mentally a little bit frustrating?
Well, that was big for him. Mike knows how to come back. He's mentally tough. The one he caught and took a few people in the end zone with him was big. The one he dropped, you got to come back from. He's one of our bell cows, and we rely on him to make the big catch, and he makes most of them.
And this was his second 100-yard game this season. Why was this game so productive for him, even with a couple big drops, knowing how easily it would have been for him to have an even bigger game, to still have 143 yards? What was working well for him?
They didn't double him as much. They left him open a few times. We took advantage of that going downfield. We got to him early, got him involved early. Baker did a heck of a job getting the ball to him.
How about that first catch for Mike? We saw Baker on the move, and how good is he, especially in movement or under pressure, all the things that aren't just kind of getting to sit there comfortably in the pocket? What stands out to you about what he's been able to do, and is it basically what you expected or maybe even more than what you expected from him?
I think it's his accuracy. On the move, he's about as accurate as he is in the pocket, and he's a very heady ball player. We kind of seen that from him over the past few months. I've seen that from him when he was in college. You see him from a little bit when he was in Cleveland and some in LA. He just continued to do that, and he just knows how to make plays at the right time. He has great timing, he has great wherewithal, and he uses that to his advantage, and that's been outstanding.
What did you see from his game overall?
Overall, minus the interception, I thought he did a heck of a job getting the ball out, converting third downs, making some tough throws, scrambling when he had to throw, not to run, even though he did run for a big first down in the second half. And he's been playing within the scheme. He understands the system, and he's making plays, distributing the ball the right way.
And what did you see happen on the interception?
I think he just panicked and threw it up there. He wanted a big play instead of the check down. He's just got to take the check down.
Obviously aimed for the tallest wide receiver on that.
Yeah, he did, but he's playing good ball for us. We'll take it.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on the Todd Bowles Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. We heard that Chris Godwin was kind of battling an illness going into the game, but man, you couldn't tell out there. So what did you see from him, especially early in the game where it felt like the Mike and Chris show early on offensively and what he was able to produce, even with Mike having such a big game?
Got to him early, especially the first play of the game. You can see the things that Chris does, but he got some great blocks in the run game as well that you really don't see on film. Chris does a lot of small things that really a lot of people don't see, that helps free Mike up, helps free Rashad up, and does some little things. We all know he can catch the ball and he can run routes and make key catches, but he's an overall complete receiver. He can do all the little things as well.
And speaking of Rashad, man, what a game for him, and that 43-yard touchdown. Take us through that play and what he did so well.
Dave made a great call. We caught him in a blitz to that side. They had nobody out there, so all Rashad had to do was catch it and run. Hainsey and those guys were about 20 yards down the field without anybody to block, and he just took it straight to the house. It was great timing. It was a really great throw for Baker because he kind of sidearmed it, and they had everybody coming in his face, and Rashad just caught it and took off.
And what else did you see from Rashad's game overall? Do you feel like this is now kind of gelling to what you hope he can be, what this offense needs him to be with the combination of what he's doing in the run and pass game together?
He's still got room to grow, but he's doing very well. I think he's a lot more confident. He's seeing things quicker. He understands where the run lanes are going to be. He does a great job in pass protection. His receiver skills are coming to light now and fruition, so he's becoming a complete back, which is what we want to see.
And how about the offensive line? You mentioned they were down there ready to block for him 20 yards downfield. Tell me what you saw from the offensive line's play all game in both run and pass.
Well, they had a tough go of it with Simmons and those guys inside, because those guys are tough, making them earn every 2 or 3 yards that we got. A few pressures, not many, but they had their hands full right there, but they're tough. They fought it. They battled it out, cut down on the mistakes for the most part. I don't think we had any false starts, which was huge for us. And that part of it was great, and we just got to keep grinding. They fight, they're tough, they're gritty. We just got to, sometimes it doesn't show on the stat sheet, but they did a heck of a job protecting Baker.
And what did you think of Tristan Wirf's audition for running back?
You might have to give him the ball some, because he looked like he was getting ready to start moving down there.
He was ready to throw a stiff arm, too.
Just got to get somebody to block for him.
So my vision is a Tristan Vita backfield. This is what I envision on some sort of goal line stand. What would it take to make this happen?
It wouldn't happen, because each of them would argue they're both the tailbacks and nobody's going to want to block.
Yeah, that's very
exactly
good point.
Why it wouldn't happen.
It's a very good point. All right, how about overall looking at this 49ers team, I mean, we've seen that, man, they just steamrolled the Jaguars, which are a great team this year, and we remember the matchup last year. What do you feel like are some of the similarities and differences of this 49ers team and what you guys can learn from the matchup of the last time you guys played them versus who they are now, who you guys are now, and how to learn from that?
Well, different year. They got some different players. We got some different players. The scheme is obviously the same, but they're very well coached. They're very tough, very talented, and they play disciplined football. We're going to have to do the same. To go out there and beat them in their place, we're going to have to be very good at what we do and not worry about what they do. Understanding what they do, but we got to be very good at what we do.
And there's another couple more here on the road. What is this stretch like for you guys, this 4-5 on the road? And this was the lone home game this past week out of this stretch. What are the unique challenges that presents to you guys as coaches or to the players or an effect on the team overall when you have a stretch like that?
I was just staying together, and I thought we did a good job in training camp with that, and it's continuing now. Every time we're on the road, it's like we're in the battle lines. We're in the foxhole together. Everybody understands that. We band together. We focus more. We play a little harder. And it's the third quarter of the season. We got to come out of this third quarter pretty good so we can set ourselves up for December.
And we know going on the road can sometimes make it more likely to struggle with some penalties, especially pre-snap ones. Where do you feel like the team is at this point now, knowing there have been some games better than others and just where the team stands on playing clean?
We got better yesterday. We got better. We got better in that aspect. Not clean, but we got better. Some things are going to be called, but we can cut down on most of the pre-snap penalties, and we did a good job offensively with that. Defensively, I know we had 2, but we got better from that area. We played clean for the most part in the first half. If we can keep that up, we give ourselves a chance.
Last time you guys faced the 49ers, Brock Purdy was just Mr. Irrelevant, that nobody really knew what was coming, what he might be, who he might be. What have you seen as the way he has progressed and grown, and how is he similar or different as compared to the last time you guys faced him?
He's the same. Obviously, he's better. When you play more, you get better, but it's just not about him. They have a lot of talent over there, from the offensive line to the receivers to the running backs to the tight end. There's a bunch of pieces that go with Brock Purdy that you got to contend with. So it's easy for him because he has a lot of pieces in the playground. So for us, we got to be disciplined. We're going to have to make plays, and we're going to have to be diligent on getting constant pressure and trying to stop the run. And McCaffrey and Debo and Kittles and the whole, they got Ayuk, they got a ton of receivers that they can go to. So we got to match that.
All right, we have one more segment coming up here on the Todd Bowles Show. We're going to keep looking forward to this 49ers game. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the Todd Bowles Show. Casey Phillips here with head coach Todd Bowles. So you were mentioning how many weapons this offense has. So let's go through each of them a little bit individually. Let's start with Christian McCaffrey. And this is a guy that, man, Bucs fans are very familiar with, having been in the division for a while. And he brings so much to the table. So what are the challenges he presents in terms of how you try to game plan for him?
Well, he's a running back and a wide receiver, so they use him in both spots. He becomes a very tough matchup for a linebacker or a defensive back, but at the same time, great balance, great vision, great understanding of the offense, can make you miss, can run over you, can catch the ball, can beat you in a lot of ways, so that's going to be a tough task.
And then similarly with Deebo Samuel, how much is he a challenge by himself, but then the idea of him and Christian McCaffrey together, that they can maybe each bring the similar idea of, are they going to be running or are they going to be passing?
Well, the thing is, they're interchangeable. You know, Debo can play running back, and they put him back there to run some. They both do each other's jobs. I think Kyle does a great job at making sure everybody does everyone else's job and knows everyone else's job, so it's going to be very hard from a matchup standpoint.
And then George Kittle, definitely a big weapon for them. What does he bring?
Had a big week last week. He's a very good blocker, very good downfield receiver as well, and he can run after catch. So, you know, he's another guy we got to keep an eye on. Like I said, they got 4 or 5 of them over there.
You mentioned that their offense is so much based on creativity and guys doing different jobs in different positions. What does that do for you whenever you're game planning a defense against a team where there is a lot of creativity to it? Do you try to essentially almost match that, or do you try to stay a little bit more basic? How does that influence the way that you try to call a game?
You have to do what your guys can do, number one, and make sure they understand what they have to do to win the ball game. And if you can be a little creative, you try to be, but for the most part, you make sure all 11 guys are on the same page.
And then not only is their offense stacked, their defense has quite a few guys on it, and then they just had to go add another one. And Chase Young, it started feeling like a little unfair. The rich just kept getting richer in that area. So tell me what stands out to you about a lot of their guys on defense.
Well, great pass rush. They get 11 eyes on the ball at all times. Great in zone drops. great getting to the ball and seeing the ball, and they're great punching the ball out. So we really got to take care of the football.
And then what stands out to you about the number one thing you feel like your offense will need to do against their defense?
Protect the football and keep Baker clean in the pocket.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you as always for joining us. We really appreciate it, and good luck against San Fran.
Appreciate it.